welcome again to a very special episode, well, because every episode is special, of Blam Truckers with Bees and Bews.
I'm Bees.
I'm Bews. And we are here to bring you, hopefully, a nice positive spin on modern geekdom.
Or, ancient geekdom.
Or ancient geekdom. Sometimes ancient geekdom that becomes modern geekdom again. Because it's the circle of geeks.
On my hard drive, the game's on my hard drive. On my hard drive, I've got games on hard drive. And CD-ROM over on my CD-ROM. I've got games over on my CD-ROM.
So, our creative director,
CD-ROM.
Bees, right over there.
Games on my CD-ROM. CD-ROM. Game. Oh, you can't really see that. There you go.
Rebellion. Yep. So, what are we up to tonight?
City of Heroes has just it shut down quite a while ago, and there were private servers running, which is awesome. And yeah, now one of those servers, Homecoming, has gotten its official licensing from NCSoft. Oh wow! Oh, you're getting fancy. Look at those graphics. That's classic 2005 graphics, right? Well, maybe a little later than that. Anyway, it just got its official licensing, and I've been playing on Homecoming for a couple of years now, over on Excelsior. And so I decided to pop back in, and then I found out they had double experience. So I moved over to Reunion, where there was double experience, because I like leveling alts. And I got a whole story about that. But what we wanted to do tonight was talk about, because there's such a huge influx of new players to City of Heroes, wanted to talk about tips, tricks, the differences for returning players that they didn't see before. Some of them because Homecoming actually created them, like the new Sentinel class, and some of them because, well, they changed a lot. I left before the end of the game to play other MMOs. Me and Bews were playing for a while on an RP server. I know, you didn't see that coming with us. But we were playing for a while back in the day, and it was a fun game. We enjoyed it a lot. So, yeah, a lot of people have come back to the game. I'm over on Reunion now. I don't know if Fuse is playing at all, besides once in a while.
Well, right now I am.
In Suitman with shield.
This is my protector.
Protector?
Character.
Oh.
The
That's
brute.
the character's name. Yes.
Yes.
The archetype is brute.
Protector.
So, do you want to start with the tips and the tricks? Like what's different, what's changed, or the tips and the tricks, how to... What do you want to start with? What's different, what's changed, and kind of an overview of the game, or the tips and the tricks for returning players?
I say let's start with the overview
right.
first. Tips and tricks aren't, I'm not going to say they're meaningless, but, if people are looking to come back again, they probably want to know more what's changed before
you want some context. I swear, English is my first and only language, for the most part. All right, so I wrote up a bunch of stuff, and I wanted to start with, if we started this way, a general overview of classes and the hero-villain dynamic. City of Heroes came out after EverQuest and before WoW. That's not a very large time period there, but if you were playing MMOs at the time, like I was, and Bews was, because Bews got me into EverQuest, it felt like something new and amazing was coming out, and that they were all so very radically different. And they were, in a lot of ways. Do you think you could get to either Pocket D or Atlas Park and go to the P2V vendor when we need it? P2W vendor when we need it? Not right now, but when we get to that part. That'd be awesome.
Oh, I mean, definitely can get there because I've got the Ouroboros portal.
Did I ever get you the long-range teleporter on that too? Fair enough.
No clue. I can find out in a second.
So Ouroboros is one of the things that changed, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the difference between WoW and other MMOs. So first off, parties in City of Heroes are larger than absolutely any other MMO I've ever played. You can have up to 8 people in just a regular party, and that is huge. Yeah,
A party.
it's hard to coordinate that many people. EverQuest it was 6, and that was challenging. WoW I believe is 5, right? And Star
5.
Trek Online
Yep.
is no, Star Trek Online 4 or 5, and then Star Wars
4, I
4.
believe. Oh wait, no, no, no. Star Trek Online. I forgot. Star Wars Old Republic was
Star Wars Old
definitely
Republic
4
was 4.
because that made it difficult when we were
Yes, it
playing
did.
together.
So yeah, but 8 people when you get a full group together, it you got to get the challenge difficulty right if you want it to be a challenging game, because you can turn the challenging difficulty down and let it be a walkthrough, which is not how the game started. It didn't start with um, it being able to change your difficulty level. And but eight party members. I've run through parties where we didn't even have a tanking class. So you think about that traditional, we call it the Holy Trinity in gaming these days. But back then we didn't call it that because it hadn't been invented yet. The Holy Trinity comes from WoW more than anything else, in my experience. There was no Holy Trinity in EverQuest in MMOs. There was no Holy Trinity in D&D until after fourth edition. Um, and even then, it was technically the 4 classes. But in WoW, I'm sorry, in EverQuest and in um, what do you call this here? City of Heroes and City of Villains, there were 4 major types of classes. There's the tank. This should sound familiar to everybody. The tank, the support, not just a healer, support. The tank, support, damage, and control. And in City of Heroes, that was pretty well put out there because in City of Heroes, there were 5 classes. 2 were damage classes, and the other ones were quite literally tanker, defender, which was support. Then you have your 2 damage classes, blaster and scrapper. Blaster is long range, scrapper is close range. And then you have a controller for control. WoW got rid of the controller, creating the Holy Trinity. There's very few control powers in WoW. Um, there's
And they're shared amongst.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and they're shared amongst multiple classes and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Well, in WoW, they fixed
Yeah.
they don't need a controller because um, they've been able to control the size of the groups that you're fighting. So instead of having to worry about fighting too many mobs, bad guys at once, you get like 2 or 3 at most at a time, and you just walk through them or you nuke them down all at once. And I know I'm not explaining every game or term I use here, so if anybody doesn't understand any of these, ask in the comments and we'll explain these terms like nuking and mobs. But mobs are bad guys. Go ahead.
Please, and please don't make fun of my build. I understand. For those of you who play, I'm not the greatest at this, but I have fun with it. And that's the important part.
Yeah, we're going to get into builds. That's what we're going to be talking about in a couple of minutes. Um, but we usually think of the Holy Trinity as heals, damage, and tanking. Um, City of Heroes did away with that. Before it was even created, City of Heroes did away with that because they don't have heals, damage, and tanking. They have support, damage, and tanking. And you don't have to
Mm-hmm.
heal to be support in City of Heroes. They were the first MMO to put out a class we called it Bubbles, but I think it was Force Fields. But it's popularly called a Bubble Defender or a Bubble whatever. And with bubbles, all you did was increase the damage resistance and the defense. Damage resistance is how much damage you take from any hit you actually receive. Defense is basically your dodge, whether or not you'll actually get hit. 2 different stats. So they didn't even need to. They couldn't heal. All they did was stop you from taking a lot of damage, and you could get through a mission with or an instance. They're also one of the first games to use instances, by the way. Almost exclusively, you chose a random map for your missions. There were a set They were set maps, but it was a lot like playing old school Diablo, which, by the way, was released this week by Blizzard as of the recording of this. Blizzard actually put out on their what do you call it? Their portal, I guess. They released
What, like the
yeah their
Blizzard
launcher.
launcher?
They released Warcraft 1,
Yep.
Warcraft 2, not World of Warcraft, the original games 1 and 2 with their expansions, and
Nice.
the original Diablo. So if you want to drop $26 before tax in your region, you can buy all those games and play them.
Well, hey, I mean, tax returns coming soon
There
for
you
some of
go.
us in the U.S. at least.
$26. Anyway, it's 10 for Diablo, 10 for Warcraft 2, and 6 or 7 for I think it's 6 for Warcraft
Warcraft
1.
One.
Yeah. And you get both expansions. So the Diablo expansion and the
That
Warcraft
reminds
2
me when
expansion.
I
Go ahead.
reminds me. So my wife and I played World of Warcraft together, and at one point, because we were playing, and Warcraft is full of lore, and we when we were playing through in Wrath the Lich King, I was like, I was trying to explain some of the stuff, and the even in Burning Crusade, like trying to explain some of like the past and stuff, because I played Warcraft uh, 2. I didn't really play Warcraft 1 so much, but I played Warcraft 2. I played through all of Warcraft 3 and stuff. And I was trying to explain, I'm like, you know what? I'll play through all these in front of you just so that you have like a history and everything. And yeah, that's a lot of
Oh,
stuff to
quite a bit.
play.
Quite a bit. So another support class I was playing. I was just playing one today. I'm building a Sonic Defender, and they don't.
Is it a
Yeah,
hedgehog?
Sonic the Hedgehog. They use Sonic power, so Sound Defender if you want. And there's no healing in that
Hmm.
build either. But there's a lot of damage resist debuffing and damage resist buffing. So you make the enemies weaker. They were one of the first um, games to actually have classes that specialized in weakening the enemy instead of strengthening the party. And that was a support class. Still are, actually. But that was City of Heroes. City of Villains took what was an innovative look at the standard archetypes, because all of these classes and archetypes go back to role-playing games. They're trying to, I mean,
Hmm.
nowadays role-playing games are trying to emulate World of Warcraft instead of the other way around, which was one of the big problems with Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition, is it was designed to be a video game. Um, Sorry, that's a whole nother thing. We can get off on that later, get off onto that tangent later, maybe. But
We've talked about it in a previously recorded episode, which probably will come out after this
yeah,
episode.
that's about our release schedule. We record 2 of these a week and we release them one at a time. So, say la vie. Um, so they took those dynamics, and when they released City of Villains, they turned them all on their head. Now remember the first 5 classes, five times, 5 times. Sorry, Booker T. With all apologies to Booker T and the WWE, 5 times world champions. Not that anybody's really apologizing to the WWE after the announcement about Vince McMahon's, the allegations, I should say, about Vince McMahon's predatory stuff he did this week. Well, he did over the last few years that was announced this week. Our, it's a sad story. I don't want to get into it too much, but whatever ends up coming out to be true or false out of this, it is not looking good at the moment for Mr. McMahon. Um, I'm going to wait to see what the court actually comes out and says, because yeah,
Good plan.
um, those sort of allegations, when you, as the entire film industry found out when they took Amber Heard's side against Johnny Depp before the trial was done, um, it's generally a best idea in any kind of matter like this to wait to see what actually comes out in court. So City of Villains came out a few years after City of Heroes, and I wasn't playing it at the time because I had such a hard time with City of Heroes when it first came out. It wasn't like EverQuest. It wasn't like Dark Ages of Camelot. I enjoyed it quite a bit, but I wasn't very good at it. at the time. I was okay. City of Villains came out with this class called, and they came out with 5 entirely different classes. Now, in City of Heroes, these classes are all right down the archetype. Controllers controlled and did a little bit of support. Defenders did support and a little bit of damage, range damage. Blasters did a lot of damage, both ranged and melee. Scrappers did melee damage with a little bit of defense, so they could take some hits in solo quite well. And tankers did a lot of defense and a little bit of damage. Well, City of Villains tossed this on its head. It really did. Instead of tankers, they had brutes, and they just flipped the power sets. They came up with a few new power sets, but they flipped the power sets. And Brute's main power set was offense, and their secondary was defense, like Scrappers. But they also got this thing called a rage bar. And City of Villains is when each class got additional bonus powers. But the
See the rage bar right
yeah,
here? Or you can't see it. Well, yeah, never
he's
mind.
modded his screen.
I have a rage bar. It's
Yeah.
outside of the screen.
So the rage bar fills up when the brute gets hit and when he hits something. Based off of, I'm guessing, the Incredible Hulk and other characters, they get mad. Yeah, they're more powerful when they're angry, like Mr. Furious from Mystery Men. Um, Anger rising. Yeah, I've heard it before. No, anger really rising. Um, so they actually get stronger the more they get hit, which is a neat feature. They do not. They have the same defensive caps as tankers, but they don't start off with the same defensive abilities as tankers. The cap, it's not the cap, but they start at a lower actual, but they have the same max potential, if that makes any sense. And I thought they didn't, but I went through the numbers, and me and Buse had an argument about this, what, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And you're like, he was like, I think brutes don't start off as good at defense as tankers do. And I'm like, no, they have the same caps. They got to be the same. And he was right. I was wrong. They do have the same caps, but they do not start off at the same level of defense. Tankers are a little bit higher to start with.
In your defense, I only was saying that because I was playing actually this character, and I'm like getting my butt handed to me. Where I'm like, I start as a tanker, and I'm like, I can't do much damage, but I can take a lot.
So that was no one's ever seen a rage bar before. The idea of having different or additional resources to deal with was relatively new to the genre at the time. I'm not saying they innovated it; they might have. I'm just saying it was new.
But it came out after City of Villains came out after
I
WoW,
would
right?
have to look that up right now, and since I'm the one doing most of the talking, I'm not going to. Um,
Fair enough. I can say if City of Villains came out after WoW, I mean WoW had some of that, at least with the rogue class with energy.
WoW did have that with the rogue class and with the rage for. It wasn't the same as the rage bar, but rage
Death Knights.
for the heroes,
No, not Death Knights.
warriors.
Oh,
Yeah,
Warriors. Warriors.
uh,
Yeah.
and that the warriors were broken at launch. Um, very little has ever been broken in City of Heroes, except for some of the game balance when you're trying to solo, when the classes first came out. So that's. But we're going back to City of Villains here. I really just I respect
Fair enough.
NCSoft. They did a really good job with this over the years. Um, City of Villains brought me back in. So the next class, instead of defenders or blasters, they created something called the Sentinel. And the Sentinel, not the Sentinel, they created something called a Corruptor, which has a blaster's main for its power set, and then a defender's backup for its secondary. I'm sorry, and then a defender's main for its secondary. So they could do support, but they could never do support as well as a defender could. In the same way that tankers have the highest maximum for defense. I'm sorry, start off with a higher potential for and a higher actual for defense. Defenders start off with not only a higher actual for their support skills, they have a higher potential. Does that make sense to you, Buse? Okay, good.
Yes, it
Hopefully it
does.
makes sense to all you truckers out there too. Oh, moved my chair more than I wanted to. There we go. So Corruptors aren't defenders, not by a long shot. Defenders are now the best at support, and corruptors are number two. But what corruptors got is when your target is below half damage, you start doing. I'm sorry, is below half health. When your target is below half health, you start doing double damage to your target. Now, they don't do as much damage as blasters do all the time, but they can do spike damage when you really need it, especially on a boss, one of those big bosses, like fighting Lord Recluse or the Statesman or whatever. I don't know if you actually do get a chance to fight the Statesman in this game. That's okay. Um,
Neither do I. I never
oh,
played
I've been
Endgame
playing
stuff.
it this week. So that was the second class, Corruptors. There's never been a support damage class in a video game before, not like that. That was a really good balance between both damage and support, because defenders don't do that much damage, and corruptors don't do that much support, but that balance there is just phenomenal. It's a really fun class to play. It's a very popular class too. So they got rid of blasters and defenders. That was their second class, getting rid of both of those and combining it into one. One. So the next class was dominators, which they took their primary is still a control primary, just like controllers. But instead of having a support secondary like controllers do, they have an attack secondary that's based off of Blaster's primary attack skill, but it's all single target for the most
Hmm.
part. They got rid of the AoEs because it would make the class too powerful. And Dominators do a lot of damage. And I forget exactly how their special thing works, but the more they have a domination bar, and the more things they have under their mental control or whatever kind of control, the more damage they do, basically. So yeah, that's they can be quite dangerously powerful. Our friend Booman often has a dominator build
Oh,
he
yeah.
really likes that does a lot of damage. But they also have that level of control there too, and it takes a lot of skill to play that. It's not like a blaster. Not that blasters don't take skill; they do, especially for solo play. But you're concentrating on 4 or 5 things at once when you're playing a dominator. You're concentrating on 1 or 2 things when playing a blaster, 3 on the outside, 5 if you're great at the class. But that's just how many things can you concentrate on is really the question. So that's 3 of their classes. The fourth class they came up with was the Stalker. And I'd like to say they innovated a great deal with the Stalker, but they pretty much just took the Scrapper and turned him into a rogue. So we had, go ahead,
Yeah, they.
because you played one, you
I was
loved
going
it.
to say I loved it, but pretty much what they did was they gave you like they gave you stealth
Mm-hmm.
automatically, which as a scrapper you could have done that, but you didn't have to. And also, uh, I think they gave them like a slightly bigger they gave them a bigger bonus from stealth, attacking from stealth, than a
Get
scrapper
double
would have
damage from
gotten.
stealth.
So it pretty much lets you, in some cases, one or two shots some bosses. And what we used to do was, in some of those instances where you were just had to kill like one boss, and this has caused them to change the game a bit because of it, people would just stealth all the way to the end and take out the boss. And if I remember correctly, uh, those like people who played that class were pretty much could just like advertise and chat just to help power level people in a way to just pull them
Oh
through
yeah,
all those missions and
because you
such.
got a
But then they made it so you had to kill a certain amount after and stuff like
you
that.
got a bone. We were doing that for a while. We had 2 scrappers, stalkers. Remember that? So
Yep.
we would just take our 2 stalkers to the end of the mission and kill the boss and then his guards, because the guards were easy to kill. So we'd both, do our,
Right.
it's not called a backstab, but assassin strike or whatever it is. We'd both do that to the boss, one after the other, or, almost at the same time. And boom, boss drops, and we go from there. and you kill 2 or 3 more guys, and boom, you get all the mission. You get the experience for the mobs that you took out, then you get the bonus experience for finishing the mission. So yeah, it was fun. It's changed somewhat, um, the way they do bonuses and stuff, but you have a it's basically a rogue build, and it's a lot of fun. It is
Oh yeah.
currently in the current game on Homecoming. It is the highest single target damage class in the game, and energy in particular does even more damage. But if you want to do single target damage, there is no class that does more single target damage than the Stalker, bar none. Blasters are still the best at all over
Hmm.
damage, all around damage, damage per second, however you want to put it. Corruptors can do a lot more end of the mob damage, but yeah. So that was the Stalker, and then they came out with another class, the fifth and final class for City of Villains. This is a long time back. This should all be sounding familiar to any returning players, called the Mastermind. It was the first. It wasn't the first pet class. Both controllers and dominators could summon pets, but they didn't really have a lot of control over them. You just summoned them and they walked around with you, kind of like an EverQuest, where you had a few pet
Hmm.
commands, but that was it. You didn't even have pet commands with controllers. You still don't. Oh, masterminds get pet powers, and not only do they get pet powers, they get a total by end game. If you choose all your pets to as for your powers, they get a total of 6 pets of various power levels, but 6 pets. I don't think there's ever been anything quite like it in MMOs before or since. Their secondary is a support class. Um, they're and they have plenty of time to do support when they're in a group because they set their pets on something. That's one action. You summon your pets, you buff them up, then you tell them where to go or you tell them to attack something, and then they're busy during the fight doing their thing. You might have to check on them once in a while, but the rest of the time you can just focus on doing support, and they're very good at doing support. As good as corruptors, not as good as defenders. So those are the 10 main classes. Then there are 4 additional classes. This is this is stuff you actually saw in the game before. We haven't even gotten to the new class Sentinel yet. There's 4 advanced classes, and the advantage of these classes is depending on how you build them, they can fill particular roles. You get a little bit more variety with them. There's the Peacebringer, the War Shade, the Arachnos Soldier, and the Arachnos Widow. And originally the first 2 were for
Hmm.
heroes, and the second 2 were for villains. And you had to have, had a max level character or a level 40 character, whatever it was, and done certain missions to unlock them, and this, that, and the other thing. Um, Now you can just start as one now in Homecoming. And I don't want to spend too much time on just the classes, but they're the same as from back in the day. That's why they haven't changed that much. And depending on how you build it, you can fill different roles. Some of them can tank, and then that same class, like the Lightbringer, if I remember correctly, can tank, heal, and do damage. What did I say,
Peacebringer,
Lightbringer?
Lightbringer. It's not Uther. I'm sorry.
The Peacebringer can fill the role of 3 classes. The Warshade can fill the role of 3 different classes, etc., etc., etc. Um, so you have those advanced classes. What's one of the new things City of City of Heroes now with Homecoming is the Sentinel class, which we've mentioned a few times in passing. What they did with this is they took a Blaster's primary and a Scrapper's secondary, so the Blaster's primary and the Scrapper's secondary, and you create a solo ranged character. And Buse loves this combo, or at least he did.
Hmm.
Okay. Um,
Yeah, I do. I still
it's
do.
one of those things where it's a lot of fun to play. It's fun to solo with. Um, it's not the you're never going to be the best class around, but at one thing, but as an all-round class, you're pretty good. So their bonus is they make enemies more vulnerable, which is kind of a support thing. When they're shooting, they make enemies more vulnerable, which is neat. They've added in 3 new. 3 or 4. They've added in a couple of different power sets. So I know the blaster ones by heart because I've studied it repeatedly. Um, the 3 new ones that I know of are water blasters, seismic blasters, and storm blasters. And because they're ranged powers, you can use them for defenders, corruptors, blasters, or sentinels. So sentinels, blasters, corruptors, and defenders can all use those 3 new power sets. And they're not particularly overbalanced or overpowered. Water has one big advantage in that it can do um, its final attack does the same amount of damage again as damage over time after it hits, but that initial final attack in that power set generally wipes out the enemy anyway, which is true for most blasters. It's on a long respawn time, recharge time, whatever you want to call it, and it's a major attack. So it looks like it's got a huge advantage, and it's nice for boss fights, but over 30 seconds it does the same amount of damage it did in an instant. That's nice. It is. It's nothing to sneeze at. For most of your gameplay, though, it's not going to change much. Anything you want to add about this section? We zipped through that a lot faster than I expected us to.
No, no, I think you did it good. I'm just here to provide the eye candy / distraction.
Okay. So this was in the game at the time. It's called there's there's not just heroes and villains. There's also Praetorians, however you want to pronounce that. Based on the Praetorian
Hmm.
Guard from Rome, real Rome, not like a movie or something. They actually had a guard called the Praetorian Guard. Anyway, um, no, did they? I'm thinking of Praetor. The Praetorian Guard is from freaking X-Men in the Shi'ar. The Praetor is the office in Rome. They didn't actually have a Praetorian
Okay.
Guard. They had. I could be mixing it up anyway. I thought they were the people who defended the emperor, but I might be thinking of something else. Praetor was an office in Rome, and then Praetorian has become popularized, especially in geek culture, because of the Praetorian Guard in X-Men, which hasn't come up in the movies. If you guys only watch the movies that I know of, did it come up in Age of Apocalypse or anything after that? Have they dealt with the Shi'ar in those movies?
The Shi'ar has not appeared at all.
Well, that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that it hasn't
Yeah.
appeared in the MCU.
MCU might touch it. Yeah, but they didn't have access to it before because I think Shi'ar were connected with X-Men. So
Um, I don't know. I don't know. I do know that they kept making uh, Shi'ar in the comics after they stopped using the X-Men. They started using the Shi'ar for a while. Anyway, it's complicated, and we've been over some of it before, and I'm sure we left out some nuances because there's a lot of nuances.
you can find out in a future episode about our past
That's right.
episodes.
Um, future episodes are past episodes. So if you want to go ahead and take your guy to Atlas Park to the pay to win vendor.
Will do.
So one of the things that's been added into the game is a pay to win vendor, and it's a lot of fun. Um, Everything that was a free gift for various purchases, you buy this edition of the game, you buy this expansion, and you buy early access. This all those whatchamacallits there. What do we call those things? Bonuses, I guess.
Yeah, bonuses from special edition and collector
Yeah,
edition purchases and
they've all
stuff
been
like
put
that.
on somebody called a pay to win vendor, and they may have added some stuff there too. I'm not sure exactly. And it doesn't take real cash; it takes in-game cash, which is called influence. And there's some neat stuff on there. So, all right, I kind of just want to go into what I do with a new character, because it takes me about 20 minutes to make a brand new character, and then get them everything they need. But one of the things you need to know is that you can email yourself cash and items, You have your own email account. Can you bring up your email account real quick? So you can see those emails, and you have a account ID and whatever it's called,
Mm-hmm.
and it's an at, and then whatever your first character's name is, and you can change that in the options menu. Um,
Yep.
so you can email using that at ID, your global ID, and that email not only goes to all the characters on your account on that server, it is cross server, and you can open up the auction.
Which we found
Yes,
out this week.
because I hadn't left the server before this week. If you go to the auction house, which is /AH from anywhere in the game except for like being in an instance or a task force or something like that, or the, you know, AE, Architect Entertainment, you bring up, and that's that right there. What Buse has on the screen there is, I don't know if he's on this side of me or on this side of me. Um, what he's got on the screen there is the auction house, and that's all you have to do to get to the auction house. You just type in 3 characters /AH enter, and 4 strokes of your fingers, and boom, you're at the auction house. And the auction house is cross
Yep.
server. That's pretty useful. Yeah,
Nice. That actually having something like that be cross server, excuse me, kind of helps make it pretty much makes the economics of it equal across all the
yep.
servers because
It's actually really annoying. So I got on Reunion, and it's a low population server, and
Mhm.
people were complaining that the auction house prices are way too high because high population servers like Excelsior and Everlasting. Excelsior is currently the highest population server. It wasn't when I joined, but it is now. Um,
I think Stan Lee has something to do with that.
maybe. I don't know. I haven't been. I don't do a study of everything. Um, on high population servers, you have a lot more money from because a lot more people are killing a lot more mobs.
And they've had this, and some of them have just been stockpiling money
Yeah.
for a long time.
And so prices on the younger servers are the same as the older servers, and the economy on the older server has a lot more inflation in it, which I find amusing. But you start selling stuff at the inflated prices for your local server, and you'll catch up pretty quick. It did end up working out pretty well for me, anyway. Um, yeah. So what I do with a brand new server, with a brand new character, whatever server I'm in, is the first thing I do is I email them about 10 million bucks. It's called influence in the game, so 10 million influence, but I'm probably just going to call it dollars or bucks. And that sounds like a lot of money because in real life, that is a lot of money um, till inflation gets to it. In the game, it's just not. Um, yeah, get to level 50, and you're going to find out you have, which is the highest level in the game, you have a decent amount of money. And yeah, I spend over $500 million on my $500 million influence on my current build on my new server. $500 million. All of that money made at the new server, not in the old server. So, yeah, 10 million, not that much. So you go. The first thing I do.
Now, for most of you, though, if you're just starting, you
Oh
obviously
no,
won't be able to do that
no, no,
step.
no, not until you have a character that's high level and you played it for a while. And yeah,
It doesn't actually take that long,
no,
though.
no, a couple of weeks and you'll be running around with the cool kids. Less than that if you take advantage of some of the power leveling that's available in the game. And some of it is actually playing the game. Like one of the things that City of Heroes innovated, and it's still in the game, is what they call sidekicking and exemplaring. So it doesn't matter what level you are, you can group with anybody of the same faction. So if you're on red side, you can group with anybody on red side. If you're on blue side, heroes, red side is villain, blue side is heroes, gold side is praetorians. If you can get to the zone, you can group with them, basically. You may have to switch your alignment and null the gull, and I'll be explaining what that is in a minute. But you can still group with them. They'll bring you, if you're sidekicking up, they bring you up close to their level. If you're exemplaring down, they bring you down to that person's level. So you can always group with somebody, no matter what level you are. And it's one of the greatest things ever created for MMOs. And few MMOs have ever done it this well. EverQuest still doesn't do it. So there you go. So the first thing I do when I create a brand new character is I change the controls. They've got the standard first-person shooter controls where WASD, instead of A and D being turn left and right, it's strafe left and right. And then Q and E are turn left and right instead of strafe left and right. Now, this was standard for FPSs back in 2000 or whenever, 2005 or whenever this, it was in 2005, whenever this game came out. And it's still pretty standard because you're using the mouse to navigate. Um, yeah, MMOs aren't as fast as first-person shooters. You can still use the mouse to navigate, but you have to right-click on the screen to do it. So you right-click and then you move your mouse, and that'll move the screen around. In FPSs and first-person shooters, you just move your mouse around and it moves the screen around. So I would always switch that so that my strafe is Q and E and my turn is A and D. Not everybody does that. I'm just telling you what I do. And you can manipulate all the controls. My vision's not as good as it used to be, so I turned the font size up to 13 from 12. Wow, I feel old. Not super old, just my vision's going. And I turn on my pet window. The only class that starts with pet windows enabled in their options is what do you call it? Masterminds. I like having a pet window open. So, the other thing I do is on the very first page of the options window, and you might want to bring this up, views, you may not. There are two sliders at the very top of the page for automatically how many levels will you automatically exemplar up or down to. And I just put it all the way over to 50, so I never get prompted whether or not I want to exemplar or sidekick. I always want to
So
exemplar.
what is that
Hit
on? What
menu
is that under?
options,
Option
and the very first tab. Yep,
general.
general tab, right at the top. You see those two sliders? Slide them all the way over to the
Yeah.
side, and it'll go up to 50 on both. And you'll never be prompted to be exemplared or sidekicked again. And they added.
That would have been nice to know a little while
I
ago.
I tell you about all this stuff in passing. I don't make a big point out of it, and that's a teaching thing. I don't. When I'm teaching somebody a new game, I tell them about the options. I cover everything with them in passing, in general, very quickly, and then I let them play and figure out the game for themselves. And because the way I do a setup may not be the same way they do a setup. Now they just recently did a fix on this where now that works on your pets too for a mastermind. So you don't have to keep casting your pet.
You don't have to resummon them anymore?
Nope. Yeah, that's new
Nice.
though. That wasn't when we were playing a year ago all the time. So we were playing City of Heroes on Homecoming as our Sunday night thing with our friends, and now instead of that, we're doing the RPG that we're going to tell you about some more in a little bit. Um, but that's for options. Those are all the first things I do. Uh, also, can you bring that back up?
Of course.
Do 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 do
But
do
of
do.
course.
These are little tricks and tips and things. Um, what does that say? What does that line say directly under the sliders? What's the next line? You can.
Hoping that would make bigger.
I can't read it, but I'm sure you
Yeah,
can,
no,
and
I
I'm
didn't.
sure that they'll be able to read it. Very next line under the sliders.
Prompt team
Uh,
teleport.
I always have that disabled so people can teleport me wherever they want. Most people, the community here is amazing. Uh, it just is. So people, you're not running into grief players, and yeah. As a tank in particular, sometimes they need me quickly. So they just pull me. And I tell them to just, if you need me, teleport me. And they do. Um, yeah, that's all I do in the options menu. The next thing I do is I get the cash out of my email and I buy certain stuff from the P to Win vendor. Now there's some free stuff in there, and that's what we're going to cover first. Um, Go to show me my wares, show me your wares, and prestige powers attacks. So there's 4 attacks, and you can get 3 of them for free. Now these attacks, you're not going to keep using them unless you're a tanker or a brute or a scrapper. You're not going or stalker. You're not unless you're a melee class. You're not going to keep using most of these attacks for the rest of the game. The 3 you want, and I'm saying this straight up, I'll tell you maybe with your playstyle you want the 4th, and maybe that's true, but it's not true. There's 4 attacks. There's Sands of Mew. There's the something slaying axe. That's the one you don't get.
Undead slaying.
The what? Undead?
Undead
Undead
slaying.
slaying axe.
Yeah.
You don't get that one. And then there's the 2 wands. What are the 2 wands?
And so you got a Nemesis staff and the black wand.
You,
Yep, Nemesis
you
staff and
really
black
want the
wand.
black wand. So those are your 2
Yes.
ranged attacks. The Nemesis staff has a knockback element to it, which is awful. Knockback in this game is very powerful, and if you're in a group, it's just going to piss off your tank. Grouping and hurting the mobs is very important in this game. And when you're sitting there and you've got your melees all surrounding the mob, and suddenly the mob goes flying, now we have to go and move around it. But for solo,
Run
what
after
was
the
that?
mob. I said, and then you have to go and run after
Yeah,
the mob.
it's obnoxious. Um, Luckily, you can buy enhancements for your powers that actually allow you to turn knock back into knock down. Knock down is great because the mob goes from standing up to right where it was on the ground, and you can still punch him. Um, but it's good for pulling as a tank, and it gives you 2 additional ranged powers. If it's nice to have ranged powers for free as a melee class. So those are the 4 powers. The reason why you want Sands of Mu instead of the Undead Slaying Axe is Sands of Mu hits multiple targets, and you really only use these powers serious for anything more than just helping out a little bit here and there. But in your rotation, you're only going to be using these powers for the first 5 levels or so, 10 on the outside. So you want the AoE. I mean, it's just a cone in front of you for a melee attack, but you get 3 mobs in front of you, and now you're hitting all 3 of them with 1 attack. That's nice. Um, and then the other 2, as a scrapper or as a melee, you will be pulling with those or hitting an enemy that's running away with them. It's nice to have it there. It's not something you're going to be relying upon in your main rotation while you're fighting, but it is nice to have. So those are the 3. You can take 3 out of the 4. The Origin bonus version um, for the Electro Staff or whatever it's called there, Clockwork Staff, whatever it is. Those are your tech and science origins, and you get to choose your origin during character creation. It has almost 0 impact on the game. Not quite, but almost 0 impact. And then the magical and floofy powers, the more fantastical origins get a bonus for Black Wand, and you have to choose it yourself. The game will not, if you're a tech origin and you choose origin bonus for Black Wand, it just won't give you the bonus, which is additional damage. It's not a game changer, just something you should know. So you get 3 attacks for free. You get 1 inspiration power for free. What what does that say? I should just bring the game up on my home computer, on my other computer. Doobie.
Oh, the inspiration drops? Is that what you're talking about? No.
No, not inspiration drops. But when you do have the cash, you want to turn off small inspirations and turn on team and dual inspirations. Now, team and dual inspirations will cost you 100,000 influence apiece. So you're not going to do that with your first character at level 1, but your second character at level 1, you will easily be able to do that for. Um, I'm talking about inner inspiration, secondary mutation, and tarot card reading. I'll just bring the game up. As I get out the keyboard. Look, guys, a keyboard. So I can read along.
Wait,
It's.
so dual inspiration? I didn't even
I
notice
told
this
you about
before.
it last week when I found out about it.
I mean, I think I've
Oh,
bought
yes,
these
you have.
before.
You told me about them. I'm like, why would you spend money on that? You don't have any money. Um, I always had a lot of money.
So, yeah, I guess I'll unlock
Yeah.
those. And you said you normally lock the small ones, like reject the
Yes.
small ones?
So otherwise, they just fill you up and they don't do as much as the bigger ones, and it doesn't really impact drop rate that I've noticed so far. So we did prestige powers. I skipped prestige enhancements. You may want to grab some of those enhancements and slot powers early. Um,
I mean, I tend to use it. And the nice thing about them, which just speaking for someone who also um, plays a lot more casually, it's nice because while they aren't as good, they scale with you, and so it's less time having to replace. It's one or two or four less things to replace as time
I
goes on.
just leveled to 50 and then slot.
Yeah, but I always feel useless when I'm not doing as much.
So let's finish with this and then we'll talk about power leveling. The next thing is buff pets. You have two options for buff pets, power and shield, and there's different models for them. Um, oh, but the first one's free, and they're the same pet. There's just different models for them. So you've got the dark fairy pet, the red wisp pet, the power drone pet, and the power oscillator pet for um, power, and all of them give a buff to resistance and damage. That's all they do. And it's a separate pet. It's targetable by the enemies. It generally doesn't survive an entire instance because somebody's going to hit it with their AoE. One of your enemies are. Um, but go
And you
ahead.
tend to, oh, and if you're flying or hovering, you turn that off to summon it because it just
Yeah,
doesn't like it.
it's fine once you can fly again after.
There it is.
There you go. So it's just a different graphic. You can look up on the internet what the graphic actually looks like. There are a million influence apiece after you get your first one for free. But they bump resistance and damage. That's what the power pets do. Shield pets are generally what I take. I like the blue wisp of myself, but they buff defense and recovery. And then there's the light fairy, the blue wisp, the what else we got in here? Shield drone and the shield oscillator. Um, I like recovery. That increases your uh, resource endurance. It
Stamina.
increases your
Oh yeah, endurance.
endurance regen. Next, you have just for fun, which are never free. You have travel powers. You have three flight powers: flying carpet, rocket board, and void skiff. They cost a million influence apiece. Obviously, you're not getting that with your first character at level 1, but they're decently fast. If you don't want to buy a travel power as you level, if you don't want to choose a travel power as you level so you have a stronger build for whatever your build is, you can grab one of these. Or you can buy a temporary jetpack, which is what I recommend because there's one jetpack that's 5,000 influence for half an hour, and you can get up to 5 hours worth of flight time. And that's 5 times 2. Yeah, it's $50,000, 50,000 influence for 5 hours of flight time versus, and you can still do abilities while you're doing that versus a million influence for unlimited flight time. Yeah, I've never run out of those 5 hours of flight time. If you do, it's another 50 grand. It's not that much. Trust me, it sounds like a lot, but eventually it won't be. And I don't mean like by the end of your first week, you'll be like, oh yeah, I can do this. Casual play. Uh, Then you have a jump pack or a steam jump. One of those is free. I grabbed the what was the first one there? It's the exact same power,
Jump
different
back.
grab it, different graphic. I like the jump pack. It looks like a cool little jetpack on your back.
I actually had that back when the game was
Mm-hmm.
live. It came with the City of Villains
Yep.
Special Edition.
And that will get you through traveling from instance to instance until you can afford something better or buy a travel or get a travel power as you level up. Next, you get a free run, either the beast run, which makes you get down on all fours and run like a beast, the ninja run, which makes you run like a ninja with your arm out like this. It's not the Naruto run, but it's oh, I'm running like this, yay! But when you jump with the ninja run, you do a flip in the air, which is why I always take it. And you get the athletic run. One of them is free, and it's just a style thing. You get the exact same speed bonus by the free innate ability you get at level 1 called sprint. It's just a cosmetic thing, which I like. I like the flip. Then there's travel powers that transform you into an animal. They all cost money. There's assemble the team, base transporter, supergroup portal, mission transporter, and team transporter. Team transporter costs $10 million. When you can, get one. Don't break the bank for it. Work on your build first. But the team transporter will transport you to your next mission, and it can only be used once every half an hour. So if everybody in a task force has one of these, then you can just go from the end of your mission to the next mission in your task force, and you zip through it because you got 8 people, and there's usually about 6 missions in a task force. Yeah, they're very nice. Or if you're running through a quest change, they call them missions. All right, those are all the travel powers for free. Uh, Utility. Okay, that's it. That's all you get for free. There's no more free things in this for your level 1 first level character, first character level 1. But there's stuff you need to know. I'd like to go over with you guys because I would have. Oh no, this is where you get your free thing. Under utility buff powers, you have inner inspiration, mystic fortune, and secondary mutation. The first one's free. The next one costs $500,000. Get all three. Don't break the bank, but eventually spend the million and get the other two. You want to start. It doesn't matter which one you start with. They're all nice. Inner inspiration is what I recommend because it gives you 3 free inspirations. Inspirations, you just hit that, you get 3 free inspirations, boom, you can use those inspirations, which are quick little helper things in the game. They boost your health or your health, raise your health bar, raise your endurance bar, can increase your defense, your damage resist, your power, your accuracy. That's about all they do. And wakies, sorry, wakies bring you back from they resurrect you. Um, so yeah, it's 3 free. They're never. I've never gotten a small inspiration from inner inspiration. They're usually powerful. There's 3 levels of inspiration: small, medium, and large. Inner inspiration usually gives me large. Sometimes I get a medium. Mystic fortune gives somebody else, not your character, some other character you have targeted, a temporary power, and it's just a minor increase in ability. They're nice. Again, it's worth it when you have the money. And then secondary mutation is the same thing for you, giving you a small boost. It's nice. It's random, but it's nice. Under, again, prestige powers, utility, miscellaneous. There are, I'm just going to walk through this. The portable workbench, it's $10 million influence. When
Influence.
you buy it, you can now have a workbench to do crafting on wherever you go. Uh, if you're into crafting, go for it when it doesn't break the bank on you. Otherwise, you can go to the university or you can go most supergroup portals when you join a supergroup or you get into one of the free portals. A lot different servers have different portals that allow you to use the supergroup for transportation and utility. And yeah, if your server Excelsior's is called the Cosmic Platform, they have tons of workbenches in there. Um, there's workbenches around. It's not hard to get around in this game. Travel is not a curse here. It's probably the easiest game to travel around in I've ever played. Um, but if you want one, by all means, should not be at the top of your list of things you need to buy, but it's there. It's on the list if you're a crafter. I don't craft. It's not my thing. Then you have,
I only do occasionally. Typically, only if I get a recipe that I really like, and if I have half the stuff to build
yeah.
with already.
Um, you get two resurrections here. They cost 1 million apiece. I recommend getting one of them. It doesn't really matter which one. Renewal of Light brings you back at, I think it's one of them will bring you back at half health and half endurance and knock everyone around you down. All the mobs around you will get knocked down. The other one will just bring you back at full health and won't knock and endurance and won't knock anyone down. They're both 1 million influence apiece. You're not buying this at level 1 first character, but get it. It's got, I don't remember what I think it's got like a 10-minute recharge on it.
Or be like me and pay off, or be like me and end up dying a lot and have a bunch of experience debt, and you get it for free.
Yep, that's how you get it for free. That's the Unbroken Spirit badge, the Undaunted badge. Yeah, it's a debt badge. You don't have to buy it. You can just buy Wakies and email them to yourself, which is cheaper, really. I always get it anyway because when you resurrect with a Wakey, you come back stunned. There is no stun component with this resurrection. The next miscellaneous power is Reveal. It's 10,000 points. You want it. You want it at least to try it. What it does is it takes the fog of war off the minimap. Whatever map you're on, it'll take the fog of war right off. Fog of war, gone. It reveals the entire map. It's a wonderful power. Um, I use it all the time, but I'm usually the tank and I'm usually leading the group. So I like to know where I'm going. If you enjoy the fog of war and figuring out where you are on the map, or you're using it as a marker to see what ground you've already covered, fine. Play however you want to play, but I highly recommend Reveal, and I know that most of my friends who I've told about this do not like it, or do not use it anyway. Do you not like it, or do you not use it?
Uh, Both. I have, as you can see, I haven't actually bought it, but I'm the type of person that even if I am leading the group, I prefer to see where I've been. But I also get lost easily. I got lost in Stormwind and WoW. I got lost in Freeport in EverQuest.
Even the new Freeport,
I get lost in Atlas Park. Actually, New Freeport I'm much
it's a
better
much
with,
easier
but
thing. The next power is self-destruction. That blows you up without giving you any debt. So the death penalty in this game is still debt. Um, you get half experience until the debt is paid off. The other half goes towards your debt. Not a horrible penalty, honestly. Shadowy presence, but self-destruction will blow you up. It will do damage to your enemies. It only costs 100,000 influence. If you know you're about to die, you can self-destruct. All of the reses still work on you. It's not bad, but I never know I'm about to die. If I know I'm about to die, I'm not reaching for the self-destruction button. I am reaching for a little healy from my inspirations or my healing power, or I'm trying to survive. It's just not in my skill set. I bought it on one of my characters. I never actually used it when I should have. Shadowy Presence is really nice. It's only 10,000 bucks, and it is really nice. It's an invis. It's got a 5 or 10 minute recharge on it, um, but you get to be invised until you do another action. And I don't mean walking, I mean attack. But it is a temporary invisibility with a long recharge on it. It's a nice power. And then you can disable all powers or only affecting self powers. Um, yeah, I don't use those for anything. Maybe they're good for something. It's got to be a role playing reason to have them in there. I just don't get it. That's okay. Maybe somebody in the comments will tell me what I'm supposed to do with those powers. Vanity pets. Um, they don't do anything. They don't cost 1 million bucks. They don't do anything. They keep adding vanity pets. They're very popular. Um, yeah, they just follow you around and they're your pet. And with a game that has this involved of a character creation appearance system, and you can choose what you look like. I mean, in this right now, you get if you go to menu and you go down to costumes, I have access on this character. Which character is this? I don't know which character I'm playing right now. That's okay. Oh, it's my new tank. It's a level 50 character. I start off with one, two, three, four. I believe you start off with 5 costumes, and I've unlocked one. You can unlock up to 10 costumes. 10 costumes. That's a lot of costumes. And you can go to any trainer and change any one of those costumes for in-game influence. It's pretty easy to do. People love customization. You may want one of these wolf pets. A million influence isn't that much after you've been playing for a couple of weeks for something so trivial, and it's only trivial to me. It may mean you may love your pet. In fact, you probably will love your pet. Our friend, what have we been calling him? The other one we play with, who's not Boo Man.
Oh,
Sure, let's
Crenshaw.
call him Crenshaw. He plays Crenshaw in our RPG. He loves his. He's got
Hmm.
I think it's a wolf pet or a lion pet or something on one of
Mm-hmm.
his characters, and it fits his theme. And boy, do people care about themes in their game. I make I make one character type, one or two. They're usually just solid black all the way down with glowing eyes. Usually they have a hat. Sometimes they have a headband. That's it. Little variations thereof. Then when I actually have a character for it, like I'm coming in as the min-maxer, trying out different builds and everything. When I actually get attached to the character, then I build it a second costume.
My characters have stories behind them.
Mine eventually do, but I've got 40 characters on here, maybe 50, maybe 60. I've got however many are on a page. I have 7 pages, more than that now. The next category here is in pay to win is recipe drops. You can disable and enable different recipes. Um, there are some recipes I need to enable, it looks like. Haven't gotten around to doing that. Anyway,
I typically don't run out of space for recipes, so I would never
I sell
disable
mine
it.
on the auction house, or I sell them to
Yeah.
the vendor.
Uh, the common ones sell to the vendor. Some of the uncommon and higher depends upon what they are, but the rare ones pretty much sell on the
So
auction
you need a
house.
recipe for every time you make a
An item.
specific
Yeah.
item until you learn that item, and then you don't need the recipes anymore. And it takes a lot of combines to learn an item. Revoke. This whole category here is getting rid of things you bought here, basically. One of the things that this is like, if you want to get rid of um, your black wand and you want to get the black wand with the origin or whatever, you pick the wrong one, you can do that. You start with an origin power that you actually have to put down to your bar based on your origin, and you decide you want a different origin power because you like the secondary effect on it better. Take the magic origin. It's the only one with negative damage resistance, and it's not a very big boost, but if you're going to use that against a boss, it's there to be used. You're probably going to do better staying with if you're a damage dealer, staying with your rotation, but you might not be playing a damage dealer. You might be playing a support class that doesn't have a rotation. If you're a healer, you don't need to do anything when you're not healing, especially if you're playing a mastermind. The pets are attacking, or you've set them to go to a certain area so they can attack just from that area. If they're a ranged pet class like robots or demons or soldiers, yeah, you're not doing anything. You have some time. You might be throwing in some extra attacks and stuff, and just doing random stuff that you have available. Um, you might want that. It's the only one I find particularly useful on a boss is the magic origin. So you can revoke that power and then pick a new origin power, even though it's not your origin's power using this system here. I told you, your origin has very little to do with the actual game, very little impact, but that's the impact it has. And you can look up what each one does on the wiki. So Then you have your temporary powers. Now, I love these, and I use these, but you need some cash. So you're probably not going to be using these at level 1, which is too bad, because some of them, the cost of them scale with the level of your character. And we'll get to that. So under attack powers, under temporary powers, you have the St. Louis Slammer. It's a baseball bat. You hit somebody with a baseball bat. You buy 30 charges for 5,000 influence, and you get an additional melee attack. You might decide you want it. You can have up to 100, I believe, 300 charges of this. Yay!
I remember I used to use this back in the live game because I used to. You could build them and win them from specific events, and St. Louis Slammer and the revolver were the two I pretty much always had,
Envenom Dag.
depending upon what I was
What
playing,
was that?
depending upon what character I was playing. My blaster, I always had the St. Louis Slammer on
Mm-hmm.
me.
Nice. The Envenomed Dagger. You're going to want one of these. Not initially, but for big boss fights like Hemedon or, whoever, Lord Recluse, whatever. The Envenom Dagger does negative regen when it hits. It doesn't just do damage, it does negative regen. So it slows down the regeneration rate. Some of the boss fights you need that, and not everybody has access to that ability. Only certain support classes can do negative regen. So, I'm sorry, support arc doesn't matter. I got the terminology a little wacky there. Hopefully nobody slams me too hard on it in the credits. And Venom Daggers are expensive. Daggers are expensive. They're 50,000 for 30 charge. If you buy 10, that's half a million. Again, that's not a lot at end game. Go buy a stack. Have it with you in case you need it. Not, again, a level 1 thing, but down the road. Hand grenades. This is one of my favorites. I keep this charged. On all my characters, you throw a hand grenade. It is not long range, but it is ranged. And it does AoE damage. Not big AoE damage, and it does have a knock up component. It's not very powerful. So it's a little annoying, but it gives you a ranged AoE ability from level 1 if you have the money, and it's something nice to have in your arsenal. Plasmatic Taser. It has a disorient component to it. 5,000 for, again, 24. You can buy up to 10. I don't recommend it, but you might like it. It's not bad to have, not by any stretch of the imagination. Not for 50,000 influence for 240 uses of it. We have the revolver, which again, 30 charges for 5,000 influence. You can 50,000 and bam, you've got 300 rounds out of your revolver. At level 1 and 2, it's really nice. Later on in the game, melee classes will probably like to have a ranged attack, especially for fleeing enemies. If everything else is on cooldown, it's nice to have it there to click on. Because remember, you get the 2 free ranged attacks in the Black Wand and the... wow, I cannot remember the name of that. The
Nemesis
Nemesis.
Death.
Of course, it's named after the boss who has one. I've killed Nemesis. Can't remember his staff's name, which is named after him. Gabriel's hammer. I have never bought this. I honestly don't know if you throw a hammer at somebody or if it's just a melee attack. Anyway, it's 5,000 influence. Again, buy it, try it out, see what it does. Smoke flash, 10 charges. 500,000 influence for one stack of 10, so 5 million for a stack of 100. That's 5 million is not chump change. Um, it's not a lot though, honestly. So it's a smoke grenade. It blinds the enemies. It's nice. I don't use it, but if you're soloing and you're trying to just get past a group of enemies, then you don't want them to see you and you don't have invis, it's nice. Most of my characters have invis or don't need invis. And lastly, you have a stun grenade, 20 charges for 50,000. Again, 10 charges, half a million for them. Just like the hand grenade, but this one has a disorient component to it, which is a kind of a hold controller ability. Very nice, honestly. No knockback to it. It's just a very nice ability, and it's priced accordingly. Temporary buffs. There are only there's two kinds of buffs here.
It's the amplifiers.
Where are the... Hold on a second. Oh yeah, of course you only see amplifiers. There's amplifiers and we're both level 50. Experience buffs that all go away at
Oh,
level 50. I want to talk about both.
no.
I'm going to start with the amplifiers. Amplifiers for $1,000, I'm sorry, influence at level 1, you can buy up to 8, you can buy 1 hour of amplification of your powers. Do it. Do it at level 1. If you not on your first character, you're not going to have the influence. Of course, you might just walk in level 1 and say, "Hey, can anybody lend me 10 million credits or influence?" And there's a pretty good chance someone might give it to you. I just gave somebody 5 million the other day because they needed it. Um,
And I'll be honest, when I started
yeah,
playing, again, your mileage may vary. I didn't even have to ask. Someone's like, "You're level 1." Handed it to me. I actually saw them hand it to someone who says, "Oh, I don't need it. I'm a higher level person." Then
yeah,
pass it on. Um, the again the now I haven't played since the Inrush came in, but at least prior to that, and Bees has
oh,
played,
you got to
so
get on this new
he
server,
says it's
man.
still there. Um, the the community here is so great. It's so not toxic. It's because typically people who are toxic don't end up liking it because everybody else is here for fun. We don't
Yeah,
they don't like griefers. They don't like people who are very like negative in general. And those people just end up getting blocked and no one groups with them. And this game is, while capable of being played singly, it's very much intended to be played as a group. And if you can't group,
yeah.
yeah, if you're known as a jerk, people aren't going to want
It's
to group
10
with you.
times more true on Reunion than it was on Excelsior, and it was true on Excelsior. Um, the reason why I like Reunion so much is because it's such a small server. Everybody knows my character. I've been playing for a week. Now, granted, I know exactly what I'm doing.
Jeez.
I leveled my character to 50 in a day. Um, I got him all the enhancements I needed in another day, less than a day, and I've been, you know, boosting those enhancements all up to level 55 and getting my incarnates done. The game really starts at 50. Like you think you're done at 50? No, that was the easy part. Um, figuring out your build, figuring out exactly, and you get tons of respecs. You can build additional builds. It's a lot of fun. Um, a lot goes into it, but buy all three of these. It's eight grand for each one to get them maxed out to 8 hours at level 1. I'm at level 50 now. It's 250 million for 1 hour for each of these now.
You mean two
I'm
million five
sorry,
hundred thousand?
2,500,000. What did I say? 250 million?
Yeah, that would be a little too much.
Uh, so then you get your experience buffs. Experience buffs are great. Um, you trade the amount of influence you get for additional experience. If you get 25% experience but bonus, you'll lose 25% of the influence you would have coming in. If you 50%, 50%, 100%, 100%. Get the 100%. The influence you make at level 50 is going to come in so much faster than it will through levels 1 through 49. So you can get up to 8 hours of this, get the 8 hours, hit level 50 quickly. Not on your first character though. If you don't know the game, this is what I do for my characters. I always grab, and it's free. That bonus, the experience bonus, doesn't cost you anything up front. You pay for it in not being able to get influence while you level, and they stop working. They stop being available at level 50. But get it, hit 50. Not for your first character. Again, take the game as it comes. Enjoy the game. Figure the game out. Learn the game. You don't want to rush through to the end of the game and be one of those players who doesn't know how to do anything. But once you've got a character under your belt or you got a feel for your character, jump in, take the character, take the experience bonus, and level your character. Um, yeah, I really recommend those. especially if you're just trying to get a character up to 50 so you can play with your guild. I'm sorry, supergroup or your coalition. Combat temporary powers. Oop, that's the wrong mouse. Combat temporary powers. These are really nice. Yeah. Again, you can buy up to 10 of each of these. Ethereal Shift lets you fade out. It's a nice little oh poop button. Oh poop. Um, Again, there is that power in the game. Kinetic Dampener. It increases how much damage you can take. It's not a bad thing to have. Runs for 30 minutes. Um, you turn it on though. It's not like the amplifiers. Med Pack. Not free healing. They're quite expensive healing. Um, but it'll heal you up. Power Analyzer. Uh, it it acts as a debuff on the enemies on your enemy. Again, they're expensive, 50,000, and you can get up to 10 of them. Recovery Serum, 5 charges. So for half an hour, you get a boost to how fast your endurance recharges. It's nice to have. Um, by the time you're hitting level 50 and you can afford this sort of thing, you don't need it anymore if you've built your build right. Maybe you're going to use this as part of your build to change your build around. I don't know. Resuscitator, the most expensive power they have there. This is a res for other people. You can't use it on yourself. You can buy up to 100 of these, and they're 500,000 for 10. So it's $5 million for 100 resurrection charges for other people. It's nice. If you have it, if you have the 5 million to blow, by all means, buy one. Or, you know. Then you get the summons. These are very expensive. They're all very expensive, except for the backup radio, which is just expensive. Again, you can buy these in stacks of 10, but you can get yourself extra pets. So the backup radio just brings somebody to back you up like a regular cop. Um, yeah, it's nice. It's nice to have that extra help when you need it. If you need help in this game, you can just buy it. The rest of them are 10 million apiece. You have the signature summon, melee damage. It's going to summon a melee damage character to come and help you out. A range damage character is the next one. The next one is a support character and a tank character. And yeah, if you, it only for these guys, it's only 5 charges, 5 charges, and you can get up to 100 charges. So 25 times 10 million is 250 million to max out one of these. I know people who have them all maxed out on all of their characters. That's a lot of money. And now we have the temporary travel powers. They're all flight. They're all the exact same powers. They all have a different look to them. Most of them cost 50,000 influence for half an hour of flight. You've got the Goldbricker rocket pack, the Holiday rocket pack, the LKT 1700 rocket pack, the Longbow jet pack, and the small Longbow jet pack. All of them cost 50,000 for half an hour. You can buy up to 5 hours of flight time. And there's one other in here that I mentioned earlier, and it's just called Jetpack. It's 5,000 instead of
That's the cheap
50,000.
one.
It's a cheap one. I have it on all of my characters. I buy 5 hours at level 1, and I don't buy any other travel powers for the most part while I'm putting my builds together. I'm usually the slowest person getting from point to point, but I'm not that slow. Other people are like, I got here first. I'm
Okay,
like, well, I'm the tank, so go ahead and start it and die. And when I get to the instance, go ahead.
uh, and they're all the same. They're all the same speed, though, right? The other
Yeah.
rocket packs are the same speed as the regular
Mm-hmm.
jetpack, right? Yeah.
The only way to boost their speed is to put speed enhancing enhancements into one of your powers. And if you don't have a flight power, the only power you can put them in is your innate power. I believe it's called Swift. Let me bring it up. Doobie doobie doo. Yeah, Swift, which you would need to slot your run power, and instead of putting run pieces into it, you put in fly enhancements, and that would actually increase your flight speed with your purchased flight powers. Short of getting a flight power, that's the only way to do it. unless you threw in a universal. There are actually universal enhancements in there. What time are we looking at? We're an hour and a half in, and
Yeah. So do we want?
there's one more thing I want to cover. So can you bring up the AH?
Okay. Yes. I'd swapped characters just to so I could show the
Ah,
experience ones.
so in the AH, you see at the top there, the first box down from the. I mean, you can use the whatchamacallit there, the bar to type stuff into, the text bar. Um, you go to enhancements, and it brings down attuned enhancements, crafted enhancements, normal enhancements, and special enhancements. When you're putting together your build, you want to know about the crafted enhancements and attuned enhancements because they create sets. And sets give you additional bonuses. So if we go to, say, I don't know, accurate defense debuff, okay, analyze weakness. So if we scroll over to analyze weakness on the side here, it brings up that window. If you mouse over yeah. Now if you look at it, it'll show you all the different available. There's six. There are 6 powers in this set, and it'll show you what those powers are. Where's my finger in relation to the camera? It'll show you what the powers are as you go through it. And then under that, it says set bonuses. And as you read through the set bonuses, the first one for analyze weakness is improves your regeneration by 10%. So if you get 2 of those slotted into one of your powers, they all have to be slotted into the same power, your regen on your character just jumped by 10%. If you get 3 of them, it increases your energy and negative energy resistance by a small amount, 2.25%, and mes resistance by 3.75%. But if you've got a lot of your powers slotted with all these bonuses, those are going to add up. If you have 4 of those powers, it increases your damage of all your powers. All your damage goes up by 3%. You put that on 5 powers, all of your damage just went up by 10%. No additional purchases necessary. If you get 5 of those in there, yeah, let's actually get the 5 in there. It improves the accuracy of all your powers by 11%. That's an 11% accuracy bonus to all of your powers. That's nice. Imagine if you get a whole bunch of those. If you start using sets to stack these bonuses. And then 6 increases lethal and smashing resistance by 4.5% and mes resistance by 7.5%. That's nice. All this stuff adds up. So when you're actually doing your final build, first you want to, before you do a search, so move your mouse around directly under the text bar to where it says levels, and scroll, change that 1 to a 50, and change that 54 to a 50, because there really aren't any level 54 crafted enhancements. I'm sorry, of these, there are of the, I don't know. I'm going to say I haven't found any. Not as full sets anyway. I don't know if I've even found any. So I do a 50 to 50 search, and that way I'm always buying level 50 versions of these. And it doesn't have to be analyze weakness. As you see, if we go to something else at random, let's say endurance modification, and then the bottom where there's synapses shock. Yeah. If you look at the bonuses, you'll see that 2 improves all your movement speeds by 7.5%. That's nice. That includes your flight speed. Grants the user a 10% resistance to slow effects, improves your regeneration by 8%. Not bad. Stack that with the other 10%, now you got an 18% damage regeneration bonus. Improves the recharge time of all your powers by 6.25%. That may not seem like a lot, but now you're 6.25% faster in getting your powers back. Increases energy and negative energy resistance by 4.5 and mes resistance by 6. It's a nice, all of these little bonuses, they stack up. You want to bear that in mind when you're doing your build. At level 50, you have 2 choices. You can either, once you have your build set, you can either use enhancement boosters to power all of your individual enhancements up to at +1 apiece, and they're a million influence apiece for one, roughly. So it takes 5 million influence to boost one of your enhancements, and you have 6 enhancements on a power for your sets. So that's 5 times 6, 30 million influence per power that you have 6 of these on to get to 55. But everything in the game will now be the highest level stuff in the game is level 54. And then boss and arch villain technically puts it up high enough that you need to be 55 to take on end game villains. And that's how you get to 55. Your other option is to use an attunement, is to attune those powers. And I don't remember what the bonus thing, what it's called to attune one of your powers. What an attunement does is it allows you to keep your enhancements working on your powers at any level at all. Pretty cool. Um, it what I recommend is you build 2 builds because you can build what is it, 8 builds, 14 builds? I forget what it is. It's a ridiculous number of builds. And if you're at the point where you need more builds, congratulations. That's a good point to be at. Sucks to be you, but you've really enjoyed the game, I hope, at that point. Uh, I recommend 2 builds once you figure out what you want your build to be. I recommend one that you have boosted all the way to max levels so you can fight the bad guys at high levels, and one that's attuned so you can go and help your buddies at lower levels. That's all I got. Welcome back to
Okay.
City of Heroes, City of Villains. It's a fun ride. This game has a lot of good end game
It really
content. There's
is.
a lot of task force. Um, oh, power leveling. If you can get into a group that's level 15 just doing regular missions, which you generally can,
Hmm.
even at level 1, because you can just be sidekicked up to 49, take it.
Don't expect to do much damage and expect to die a lot. Just saying.
And then, go train in between missions. But it's a lot of fun. You're actually playing the game, and then there's a level builder tool called Architect Entertainment, and you can build your own missions. You can build your own storylines, which is something we were talking about doing, but I'm not very good at that technical side of thing. And yeah, it was
Neither am I. I tried to play around with it and I got
yeah,
confused, and it requires it requires an investment of
and
time that I am not able to do at this
we've got
point,
a lot of other time invested in other things. Uh, yeah,
including this.
um, especially this. This is a lot of fun. Uh, Not the game, the
Yes.
podcast. The game's a lot of fun too. Anyway, welcome back to City of Heroes. The other way to power level that's common is you pick what's called a fire farm. There's a story behind that, and somebody has built a character. Could be you, who's usually a tanker or a brute, but there's other ways to do it. And you put the mission at full power. I see that's your mastermind character. So you put the mission at full
Hmm.
power, and then which is +4 level to the mobs, and treats it like there's 8 people in your group, so there's a lot more mobs in the mission. And then they've built a tanker or a brute that's so ridiculously overpowered, like one of mine, they can just go in there and slowly, ever so slowly, kill all the enemies in there and get all the experience and all the influence from that. And they usually don't mind if somebody wants to tag along. So you just type in to /LFG looking for group. Uh, any fire farms need a sitter, and you just go sit in the fire farm and they'll level you up, which is nice. Um, it's more fun to be a hitter though. Going into a fire farm and doing the hitting is a decent amount of fun. You just go full time, and if you ever get 8 hitters in a fire farm, you just absolutely destroy it. So those are the 2 ways I recommend for power leveling. Maybe other people know faster ways to do it. Fire farms are a lot faster than just grouping with people higher level than you, but they're not nearly as much fun for the sitter. I mean, I usually read a book or watch a movie or a TV show while I'm getting XP'd that way, but it is fast experience.
Whenever I was a sitter, whenever I was a sitter when Bees was
Yeah,
doing it for me, um, I tended to get bored and then die. Because like, oh no, you pulled one off of me and
Yeah,
dead.
that's why you want wakies in your email so you can just resurrect.
But I do have to say, like, once you hit level 30
Mm-hmm.
ish, while you're still not nearly like full, like fully capable, like when sidekicking up for a level 50 group, you become useful. I want to say round about between levels 25 to 30, you become like much more useful, especially if you are a blaster, or blaster. Scrapper, you might still take more hits than what your enhancements allow, but if you're able to actually do some damage and stuff like that with them, and uh,
Support classes. Go
tankers
ahead.
are the tank classes are the ones who kind of really just have to wait.
It
Uh,
depends. So if they've boosted all the way up to 54 for their instances, and I'm not talking about fire farms here, I'm talking about leveling with somebody higher level than you. They boosted all the way up to 54. When you sidekick up, you only get sidekick to 49. That's a 5 level difference. The bad guys are gonna have a
right,
really easy time hitting you, and you're gonna have a really hard time hitting them. If they're just running it at
right.
0 or +1 or even +2, you're gonna be useful. Now, I didn't know all this when I was uh, trying to teach you how to play the game with all the trying to power level your characters at first. It learned it over time, but like if I was going to run something with your how high level is your mastermind there? Yeah.
34.
So if I was going to run something with one of my 50s and his 34, I would set it to probably 50 plus 2 or 50 plus 3, and then he'd still have a chance of hitting, pretty good chance of hitting, and especially at 52. And then most of the mobs would only be 3 levels higher than you, 3 or 4 levels higher than you, and I'd still get decent influence out of it and fun, which is really what we're looking for. Nowadays, when I run um, missions, high level radio missions or whatever, um, I set it to 53, and that way everybody has a decent chance of hitting, no matter what level they are, and everybody gets to contribute and play. But it's a challenge. People have to actually think about what they're doing. Except, of course, for me, because I'm playing a tank and I'm built to fight enemies much bigger than level 53. Not that I always play a tank, but I often do. I like being indestructible. I do.
Fair enough.
It's a lot of fun walking into groups, and this is not WoW. This is not where you walk into a group of 5 enemies and it's like, oh no, there's 5 of them. What are we going to do? When I walk into a fire farm, I usually have, I don't know, I try to get three, at least three, a minimum of two groups of 15 mobs on me at a time.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I'm fighting 30 to 45 mobs at any given time with my tanker. That's a lot of mobs. You can't do that in WoW. There's also little things that are really nice in this. Like, if you mouse over if you right click on somebody's name in the text block there, it gives you options. So you right click on their name and you can send them a personal message. You can send a message to their team or their league's leader. You can invite them to team. You can invite them to the league. You can get their global name. You can add them as a friend. You can add a note, or you can ignore them. All from clicking on the text box. That's very useful. When they're in a team with you, you can right click on their name and get most of those same options. Uh, there's a lot of convenience. Click on a mob forest views and then hit the F key. Any mob, friend, foe, any character in the game, you automatically follow them. You don't need to use the controls. You just click on them and hit F. Now, as a melee class, and you want to
My guy was in the way.
as a melee class, and you want to fight a bad guy, and you don't have to run up to them with WASD or mouse keying. or using the mouse and pressing down both buttons so you run forward. No, you click on the mob or you tab target onto the mob and you hit F and you run right up to who you want to fight. You might have to hit the jump key to get around something, but you go right up to them to the best of its computer's capacity. It's an awesome ability. When you target somebody in your group, you can not only heal with them, but while you still have your group member targeted, you automatically, if you do a damage attack, like a range attack, you'll automatically attack their target. If everybody is targeting through the tank, everybody's hitting the same target. Allows for amazing coordination, and that's all written right into from day one into the game.
Yep.
So, and these innovations are easy, they're wonderful, and you won't find them in any other MMO, even though they're not trademarked. Anybody can use these. Not even other MMOs that, as far as I know, that NC Soft has created. So
Not even Champions
maybe
Online? Or, well, no, that was Cryptic. Although, I mean, they were eventually all Cryptic, but I think Champions Online was Cryptic to
a
begin
lot of
with.
games have taken some version of that target my target, or you hit
Mm-hmm.
tab to get their target. You target somebody, hit tab, and you get their target. And that's
Mm-hmm.
nice, but the follow feature, just by hitting the F key, I don't think anybody's ever
Oh,
done
yeah.
that. You're just following an
All right, so
NPC.
do we want to... Well, it was the only thing I could
Fair
find.
enough.
All right, so do we want to call it for this
I have one
episode?
more thing to say, and it's very important. If anybody knows David Zaslav or somebody over at DC, I would like to pitch a movie for them. So have them give me a shout down in the comment through the YouTube here. Um, we should be setting up an email or mention the comment down below. Let me know how to get in contact with them because as you guys know, been all you truckers have been watching for a while. I have some great ideas. So yeah,
I'll probably be setting up an email some point soon. See what's available.
probably
All right.
blamblamtruckers at
Well,
gmail.com.
I don't want to. I didn't want to say it just in case somebody wanted to be a jerk and pull it before I get to it.
Then we'll go to blamblamtruckers at hotmail.com. You know, original Blam Blam Truckers. Somebody could really do a number on us, but that's the internet. Welcome to the trolls.
Right. Well, everyone have a fantastic day, and well, we'll see you,
Keep on
truckers.
trucking.